Welcome on today's lecture on content creation and guest management in post-production. So, the podcast production process involves logistical management, scheduling, guest coordination, and technical workflows. These components ensure that each episode runs smoothly from the initial idea to the final published product. Logistical management. This process includes making sure everything is in place before recording, like booking studio time, preparing interview questions, and securing any necessary permissions. A well-managed production keeps the episode on track and prevents delay. Scheduling is crucial in maintaining consistency, whether it's organizing guest appearances, coordinating recording times with hosts, or ensuring that deadlines for editing and publishing are met. About guest coordination. This is essential, especially when podcasts rely heavily on interviews or collaborations. This process includes reaching out to potential guests, briefing them on the episode's theme, ensuring they have the necessary technical setup, and scheduling interviews. Finally, technical workflows encompass setting up the recording environment, handling audio equipment, and managing the editing process. Radiolab, one of the most popular science and philosophy podcasts, serves as a prime example of how excellent podcast production results in high quality content. This podcast was founded in 2002 by Jad Amabrut and broadcast from WNYC in New York. The show has earned many industry awards for its imaginative use of radio, including a National Academics Communication Award and 2 Peabody Awards. So, the first step in planning an episode is selecting a topic that aligns with your podcast overall identity. The theme should be relevant not only to your show but also to your target audience. Ask yourself, what are the key messages or themes your podcast is trying to deliver? Does the topic align with the show's purpose? It's important to stay connected to your audience interests, so consider doing some research. Check social media trends, listener feedback, or even relevant news. Scripting vs. versus outline. When planning an episode, you'll need to decide whether to fully script your show or use a more flexible outline. Each approach has its benefits. A fully scripted episode allows for control over every word, ensuring that you don't miss any key points. This method works well for solo podcasts or for episodes that require accuracy, like educational content or narrative-driven podcasts. However, a fully scripted approach can sometimes sound stiff or overly rehearsed, which might reduce the natural flow of conversation. Alternatively, using a loose outline is a more flexible approach. With an outline, you'll have a clear direction for your episode, but there's room for spontaneous conversation, especially during interviews. This method works well for podcasts that emphasize interviews, discussions, or debates. It allows the host to adapt based on guest responses and dive into interesting tangents, while this keeping the episode on track.
Oh, wait, you're listening.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
You're
Listening
to Radio Lab.
Radio Lab.
From
WNYC.
See?
Yep.
Hello, I'm Lulu Miller. This is Radio Lab, and today, boom boom.
Oh, hello.
Hi, a story from producer Annie McEwen from her bathroom.
I'm actually like straddling the bathtub here, so good thing I did yoga
Perfect.
last night.
I do think our thing is like underwater mysteries from the 90s.
Yes. Okay, so today I have a story. It's like a Tom Clancy international underwater spy thriller with a little spicy science thrown in.
All right, I am grabbing my popcorn. Take me away.
Yeah, okay. Let's begin with.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Magnus. Magnus.
No problem. Yeah.
How do you pronounce your last name?
It depends on where you come from. So most Americans would say Wahlberg or Wahlberg or something like that. Yeah.
What do you say?
Well, that also depends. In Sweden, it's Wahlberg.
Oh, wow.
But in Denmark, it becomes a bit more like Wahlberg or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, Magnus is an associate professor
At the University of Southern Denmark.
where he studies underwater sound.
Yeah.
So let's start off in.
Here's a snippet from the Radiolab interview that demonstrates a mix of outlining and scripting, where the hosts are free to let the narrative flow naturally while sticking to a structured outline. So the host, yeah, okay, let's begin with Magnus Wahlberg. Yeah, okay. Host, thank you, Magnus. Magnus, not a problem, yeah. Host, how do you pronounce your last name? Magnus, it depends on where you come from. So most Americans would say Wahlberg or Wahlberg or sometimes like that. Host, what do you say? Magnus, well, that also depends. In Sweden it's Wahlberg, but in Denmark it becomes a bit more like Valborg or something. This part of show a scripted setup with a clear introduction of the guest and topic, but also includes unscripted dialogue like the playful interaction about the pronunciation of the guest's name. The host transitions into the narrative seamlessly while keeping it conversational and fluid, showing how Radiolab balances structure with freedom in their interviews. One of the attractive aspects of doing a podcast is that there are no rules. The Federal Communication Commission doesn't tell you what you can and what you can do. There is no programming director or group of shareholders to tell you what to say or what to play. As long as you don't infringe on anyone's copyright, you are set. People in the radio industry actually use the analogy of a wheel or a clock to determine when to do things, what to play when, and so on. At the top of the hour wheel, they play an upbeat new hit. Then they play another song, and then at 1/4 the hour they go to a commercial break. After the commercial break, they play another big hit, followed by an old favorite, and so on. The entire day is formatted by this wheel, with different songs, commercials, and promos being plugged in at the appropriate times. To ensure that your episode runs smoothly from start to finish, it's essential to create a run of show. The run of show is a detailed guide that outlines every segment of the episode in the order they will occur. Think of it as a map for the episode. The run of show typically includes introduction. This is where you hook your audience, introduce the topic, and welcome your guests, if any. Guest interaction. If you have guests, plan where and how they will be introduced. Include key questions or talking points that will guide the conversation. Main content. This is the bulk of the episode. Whether it's an interview, a discussion, or a story, this is where the main ideas are presented. Sound design. Plan when and where any sound effects, music, or transitions will be used to enhance the episode. Closing remarks. End with a strong conclusion that summarizes the episode and leaves your audience with a call to action, such as subscribing, leaving a review, or following on social media. The run of show helps you stay organized, Maintain pacing and ensure that the episode flows naturally while hitting all the key points you want to cover. Call to action or CTA. In podcasting, a CTA is a prompt for listeners to take a specific action, such as subscribing to the podcast, visiting a website, leaving a review, or engaging on social media. The CTA usually comes at the end of the episode or after important sections. Cold open. A technique used in podcast production to grab the listener's attention right from the start. Instead of beginning with the usual theme music or introduction, the episode opens with a compelling or intriguing clip from the guest or content of the episode. This method serves to hook the listener before the official introduction and sets the tone for what's to come. For instance, check out this 99% invisible podcast Cold Open. The episode is centered on how the Netherlands became a biker's paradise, but it begins with the story of a young Dutch mother witnessing a car accident. That mother, Marty, is going to be the protagonist of your story. So we start with her at home with her child about to witness a tragedy.
This is 99% Invisible. I'm Roman Mars. In the early 1970s, when Marcia van Putten was 21 years old, she lived in an apartment with her young kid in the middle of Amsterdam. It was right on a busy road, and there was always a lot of traffic.
I remember there was a nearby school, and you could see before 9 o'clock, before the school start, children on their bikes crossing that road to go to school at the other side of that busy road.
Marcia worried about the kids on their bikes.
Once in a while there were accidents.
And one day, she heard a collision out on the street.
Some people were screaming, and other cars had to stop, and you could hear their alarms and things. So then you run to the window and you see what's happening.
A girl about 8 years old had been trying to cross the street and got hit by a car.
She was luckily not so seriously hidden that she had to be transferred to a hospital, but she was hit and the bike was broken. And there was a lady, at that time an old lady, someone as I am now, an old lady with an umbrella, like this Mary Poppins sort of type.
Marcia watched as the Mary Poppins lady approached the driver of the car. She took the point of her umbrella and she poked it right into his stomach.
And she was screaming at him. And I was standing at the window and I could see what was happening. That kind of things, you don't forget.
So about guest management in podcasting. For example, pre-interview coordination. This stage includes reaching out to potential guests, confirming their availability, and making sure they are comfortable with the episode's theme and format. Pre-interview coordination ensures that both the host and the guest are aligned and prepared. Guest briefing. It's important to brief your guests in advance. Share the episode's theme, expected talking points, and any technical requirements they'll need to meet for the recording. A well-prepared guest feels more comfortable, which leads to better discussions. Providing a list of potential questions gives them time to think about their answers, ensuring a more thoughtful and natural conversation. Scheduling. Prepare for potential delays or cancellations by having backup plans in advance. Having a buffer time before and after scheduled recording can help accommodate any unexpected issues. Important guest management terms. So pre-interview, this is a preparatory meeting or conversation held before the official recording. It gives the host and guest an opportunity to discuss logistics, expectations, and any important points to cover. This can be done through a quick phone call or email, allowing both parties to clarify details and ensure they are on the same page. Guest release forms Provide legal clarity regarding how the guest contributions will be used in the final podcast. It's important to have guests sign these forms to grant permission for their content to be edited and published. This ensures that all parties are protected and that the podcast can legally use the guest's input. Technical setup for guests. Most guests are not audio experts, so it's essential to simplify the technical requirements for them. Clear instructions on using quality microphones, finding a quiet space with minimal background noise, and setting up their recording software or sending them a simple link for remote recording will significantly improve the audio quality. Providing them with a step-by-step guide or video tutorial can ensure that the guest feels confident about the setup before the recording begins. Guest comfort. Start by building rapport. Establish a friendly, casual atmosphere during your initial communication. Provide clear instructions about how the recording will proceed, including an outline of the episode and what they can expect. This reduces anxiety and makes them feel more at ease, which is essential for getting natural, engaging dialogue. Mock sessions. These test runs give you and the guest a chance to test all the technology, microphones, recording platforms, and internet connections to ensure that everything works smoothly. It's also a chance to check the audio quality and make any necessary adjustments. Mock sessions also help guests feel more comfortable with the recording process, making the actual sessions run more smoothly.
In the midst of a media revolution, tonight we're taking you behind the scenes of some of the most popular podcasts on iTunes with millions of listeners. And tonight we introduce you to the Radiolab guys. Dave Malkoff was in the audience during a recent live taping at UCLA.
It's the simplest question you can ask.
What?
Just the word what. What makes that ticket scanner work? What's the best Rochambeau strategy?
What does a protein look like? What?
What are we all doing here?
Thank you. This is Walking.
Not here on Earth. I'm asking, what are we all doing here at UCLA on a Thursday night?
Okay, so now let's rewind.
All these people are here to see a live audio podcast.
It makes science tangible.
It's called Radiolab.
I have a story. It's a very old...
maybe should we do the thing?
Oh, yeah.
You're
Listening
to Radiolab.
Radio
From
WNYC.
C and NPR.
It's a hard show to describe, so if I go into a fugue state, that's why.
That's Jad Abumrad.
Now, why are we talking about this?
Because, Jad, Slinkies are a metaphor for life.
What?
Along with Robert Krulwich, these two are here to answer all those what's we encounter every day.
By this logic, I can replace the Slinky with a molecule.
It's part science.
Is there a way to demonstrate this?
Part conjecture.
Theorizing about the stuff you think you know.
The first show that we did together was time. What is time?
But may not completely understand.
Smatterings of weird theories.
I have left the planet Earth and I see a galaxy going by on this side. I see another one coming up over there.
No. Wait. What do I really know about this?
And all of a sudden I got it.
I have a story.
It's nothing new.
No, come on. It's a very, very old story.
Yeah, caveman told stories, but Radiolab uses the latest technology to bring science down to the earbud level.
What is a brain? What is a protein?
We assume that people know just about as much as we know, which is very little.
The show started as an experiment between these two guys.
When two people click, when the halves come together.
Meaning?
Now it's consistently in the top 5 of the iTunes podcast charts.
Zeus, in his fury, hurled down lightning bolts.
It's strange, but it works out somehow.
In a studio, Robert and Jad are separated by glass. There's no air. There's no sense of even an outside. We could be floating in space in a box.
But on stage,
Okay, hold on.
Radiolab is still Radiolab. They're always
Putting the process right out front of people.
Podcast is free, so back to our original question. What made so many people pay to see a radio show?
Do you find a particular allure of this guy?
Did I not mention the sexy scientist?
Oh, well, shut up.
The answer answer is science with a bit of showbiz.
Neither of us are like terrifically swift picker-uppers of things. So we're always thinking, what?
Yeah.
Do a lot of real what?
Listen for yourself. Get the link at ktla.com/Dave.
Visual
Science for your ears.
science for your ears.
At UCLA, Dave Valcott.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zoe Keating.
KTLA 5 News.
Time now to take a look at our weather. Vera, middle of June gloom.
Yes, middle of June gloom. We should ask the radio guys. What? It's a great show. I love it.
So now coming to managing guests during recording. First of all, active listening, focusing on guest responses. Instead of thinking ahead to the next question, fully listen to the guest response and build from there. Follow-up questions. Encourage students to ask thoughtful follow-up questions based on the guest responses, adding depth to the conversation and ensuring the interview doesn't feel rehearsed. Clarify when needed. If something is unclear, active listening allows the host to seek clarification in the moment, preventing confusion later on. Coming to managing interruptions. Polite redirection. What is it? If a guest starts drifting off topic, you can gently steer the conversation back by summarizing the main point and guiding it towards a new question. For instance, there's an interesting thought, but I'd love to hear more about. Handling mistakes. If a guest misspeaks or makes an error, you can either correct it in real time or make a mental note to address it during editing. For minor mistakes, letting the conversation continue naturally often works best. And graceful interruption. If necessary, interrupting politely can keep the episode flowing. For example, I'm going to pause you there. What you just said is really important. Can we explore that more? So you can do your podcast, yes, in live format or edited format. The format of the podcast, where live or edited, significantly influences how guests are managed during the recording. Live format. In live recording, there is no opportunity for podcast production editing, which means the host must be prepared to manage time, interruptions, and mistakes in real time. You should be trained to keep the conversation on track while ensuring the guest is comfortable and engaging. Editing format. In this format, there is more room for flexibility. If a guest goes off topic or a mistake is made, it can be fixed during post-production. However, it's still essential for the host to guide the conversation in a structured way to minimize heavy editing. This format allows for breaks, retakes, and moments of improvisation, giving the host more freedom in managing guests. So, crafting a great interview: essentials and techniques. Interviews are composed of 3 essential elements: the introduction, the body, and the close. The introduction sets the tone is crucial for breaking the guest's rehearsed PR game. Starting with something unexpected, funny, or offbeat can throw guests off their scripted responses, encouraging genuine reactions. The goal is to immediately establish rapport and get them out of their promotion mode. Example: when interviewing Marilu Hanner, a producer began by jokingly suggesting they'd conduct the interview from a taxi, an unexpected reference to their famous TV show Taxi, leading to a relaxed and entertaining conversation. The body of the interview is where research comes into play. As a producer, it's crucial to understand what the guest wants to promote and find unique questions they haven't been asked 1,000 times. Avoiding overly familiar questions keeps the interview fresh and engaging. Research is key. Use the internet, Google, IMDb, and other relevant sites to dig up lesser-known facts, interviews, or personal passions. If a guest has a specific promotion, be sure to address it, but weave it into broader topics to keep the conversation natural. For example, Radiolab always posts links of the resources used to the episodes. A strong planned close ensures that the interview ends on a high note without abruptness. Hosts often save a funny or thoughtful question for the end to smoothly wrap up the conversation, leaving both the guest and the listener satisfied. Interviews can occur in different formats, each requiring its approach. Live in-studio interviews. This is the best scenario, as the host can interact with guests directly, observe body language, and create a more intimate, dynamic conversation. It also allows for better technical control, such as using in-studio equipment to play audio clips or take calls. Phone interviews, often less ideal due to the lack of physical presence, but they offer flexibility. The producer must ensure the guest is using a good quality landline and has a clear understanding of the show format and participants. Satellite interviews. These are becoming more common, particularly for TV and movie stars. They sound like live in-studio interviews, but suffer from slight delays and technical challenges. Always ensure the satellite connection is tested beforehand to avoid issues. Recorded interviews, pre-recorded interviews provide flexibility and the ability to edit out mistakes or dull moments, but it can lack the energy and spontaneity of a live conversation. Once the interview is complete, the producer's job isn't over. Consider these two important steps. Get press. If the guest reveals something newsworthy, alert relevant press outlets to generate additional buzz around the interview. This can be gossip columns, entertainment reporters, or even major news services, depending on the content. Archive the interview. Always save interviews for future use. This includes organizing standout moments that can be replayed, transcribed, or referenced for future promotions or content. Post-production guest management. After the recording, it's important to keep the relationship with the guest professional and appreciative. Sending a thank you note is a thoughtful gesture that leaves a positive impression. In addition, providing guests with information about when the episode will air and any promotional plans ensures transparency. Review and feedback. Depending on the content, particularly in sensitive or expert-driven episodes, podcasts sometimes offer guests the opportunity to review the final edited version before it's published. This is especially common when guests share technical insights, personal stories, or controversial opinions. Offering this review opportunity allows guests to verify the accuracy of their statements or suggest minor adjustments, ensuring both parties are aligned before the episode goes live. Promotional assets. Sharing promotional assets with the guest after the episode is produced can significantly boost the podcast reach. Providing clips, quotes, or custom graphics for the guests to share on their social media or platforms helps promote the episode to their audience, broadening the listener base. This cross-promotion benefits both the podcast and the guest, increasing engagement and visibility for the content.
The word hit us like you're hit with a bullet.
The stories we do now are in a different category. We're actually trying to discover things. It's some kind of weird collision between science and philosophy, music and interviews and drama. That's part of the beauty of Radiolab, is that it somehow creates all of these different fascinating problems and challenges.
Now, in Owen's case, he had these movies,
He could play them again and again and again.
And we wondered, why would that be? And why and how could a Disney movie help Owen with his autism?
Nobody would set out to make a show like Radiolab. Like that, whose plan would be, let's make this really production-intensive audio program? It grew up really organically because we felt like there was a need for it, and it was what we wanted to make. There's about 1.5 million listeners a week on the radio, and then there's also the podcast audience, where we are frequently in the top 10 of iTunes podcasts. I think part of why it sounds different than everything else on the radio is that Jad is a composer, and the musical sensibility of the show is just part of its DNA.
We don't do live.
Have you guys ever talked to each other?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, this is Jad Abumrad.
Well, hi.
This is Jim Glick.
Hey, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Telling stories is a deeply musical act no matter what. It's pitches, contours of sounds, rhythm. A lot of it is trying to get the textures and the ingredients to behave the way you want them to, which I imagine is like a chef's problem. You know, you're constantly, like the way they poke at meat to figure out if it's done, you're constantly doing that with the sound. Like you're putting stuff in, saying, does it feel big enough? It feels thick enough?
There's a real art to being able to tell a storyline and have music sort of bubble underneath the surface and always propping up the story, always propping up the characters that are in it.
Music becomes a metaphor for me. It becomes a way of translating some of these ideas. We did a show about colors. You can't even really see colors on the radio. What does a mantis shrimp see when it looks at the rainbow? There's no way to answer that question without seeing it. 3, 2, 1. We used a variety of musical metaphors, and we orchestrated a whole choir with different bands of the visual spectrum. Each cluster of voices represented one band.
Insanely red.
3, 2, 1.
Orange.
I really hope this works.
I mean, after all, he's taken 3 different things. He's taken 2. We just learned that there are creatures out there who can see colors that we can't even imagine.
Robert's like a living cartoon character. He can generate all these crazy voices in his head, and he's a great improviser. Jad's a composer, so when we all came together and Jad and Robert for the first time made something, it was like Jad was able to take the voices that were inside Robert's head and recontextualize them in a way that sounded surreal and something new and different. When we look for a new story in our editorial meeting, we're looking for, does it hit all of these different sectors? Can it take you to a specific place? Can it create specific images in your mind? And is there some kind of big idea? We love stories where you're left wondering, how do I feel about this?
People sometimes tell me it's a very visual show. That's part of like the connection of listening, is like you're seeing things and you can't help but see things. That's half the battle, you know, is about making those images come alive, which is weird because you're working in radio. You know, there are no pictures here. But in some weird, more cosmic way, I feel like the lack creates this vacuum that then 2 people have to fill. You, the storyteller, and the person listening. And there's something deeply empathic about that like we're doing it together.
You're listening to Radiolab.
Hey, Jad here. That was a video that the Dolby Institute, the movie people, made of Radiolab. Hope you enjoyed sort of the behind-the-scenes look. If you've got a minute, please make a donation to Radiolab. That's how we support the show. When you make a sustaining donation that goes month to month, that helps us plan for the future. So if you dig what we're doing and you want to keep it going, tell you what, just you can get out your phone, text this number that's on the screen. $10 will be added to your phone bill. That's huge for us. And also, you can go to radiolab.org. There's a support button right there. Click that, and it's tax deductible, and it helps keep us strong. Thanks.
Steps for booking celebrity guests. Identify emerging interest. A celebrity will appear if promoting something aligns with your show's needs. Work with PR teams who will benefit from the publicity. Build relationships with PR professionals. These relationships are vital to securing guests. Be friendly, professional, and respectful in your communications. Developing trust and rapport with PR contacts will give you better access to future guests. Leverage local venues. Celebrities often come to town for performances. Contact local venues to speak with the publicity department. Even if they don't handle celebrity bookings directly, they can point you to the right person. Use format advantages. If your show's format aligns with a celebrity's interest, you have a better chance of securing an interview. For example, if your station plays an artist's music, you are more likely to book that musician. Likewise, comedians, actors, and athletes can be booked based on their appearances in local venues. If a celebrity's interests go beyond your show's format, tap into those passions. Musicians, for instance, may appear on show to talk about a cause they care about, or actors might be promoting a charity or personal project. TV and movie stars. Often, movie stars are harder to book for live radio shows. They usually conduct satellite or phone interviews, which allow them to speak with multiple outlets. Television stars, meanwhile, are increasingly participating in radio tours arranged by networks to promote their shows. To gain access to these tours, get on the network's publicity lists. Handling politicians. Politicians may not have traditional PR agents, but their press secretaries are just as important. Building relationships with press and scheduling secretaries is key, especially during election cycles when politicians are eager to reach voters. Use of publicity firms. PR professionals often represent multiple clients and celebrities, establish good working relationships, respond promptly, and always provide clarity on how long interviews will last and what the content focus will be. To wrap up, we've covered the basic aspects of content creation and guest management, from planning and structuring episodes to managing guest interactions before, during, and after recording. Remember, the success of a podcast relies on thoughtful preparation, strong guest relationships, and maintaining flexibility to adapt. So, thank you for your attention today and see you in the next lecture.